Hey guys, welcome back to this old blonde Zenith porthole TV restoration project. When we left off, I was proposing to keep this as original looking as possible while, of course, getting it working. And part of that was restuffing all these, what I alternately call bumblebee or black beauty, plastic encapsulated paper and wax capacitors, which is as chock full of. Well, I don't think I did a great idea explaining, though, is why I'm doing that. First off, if this was a customer's TV, they would most definitely have to request it, and I would most definitely ask for more money, and we would have to agree about what exactly is going to be done and how it's going to be done and all that. To date, no customer has ever requested that I restuff the capacitors, be they electrolytic or paper. Actually, the only request I've ever gotten was to use reproduction couplates in predicted TVs. A few customers have asked that because they knew that they were available, and one even went so far as to already order them and included them with the TV, and they dropped it off and asked me, hey, can you use these? Sure, absolutely. Otherwise, I would have used my own using little modern perf board or green printed circuit boards, which, yes, do not look like the originals. All right, so why would I do this for my set? Well, as I think I did mention, because as near as I can tell, it's 100% original underneath here. And it's a cool set. I like this set. I think I will keep it for a while. I'd like to at least try. And that's the other reason, is I've never tried restuffing bumblebee caps before. I've restuffed electrolytics. I've did a tutorial video on how to restuff conventional paper and wax caps, but not these. And as I also discussed, the power resistors, I've got replacement new old stock ones that should work out just fine. All right, well, since we left off, I went hunting and I found another Zenith TV chassis. Slightly newer, but it had these striped plastic encapsulated caps that I sometimes call bumblebee, sometimes call black beauties, although technically I think black beauty, they kind of don't have stripes. They have printing on them. And we also have these pale type caps. Those we'll talk about later. Let's focus on the bumblebees. So I noticed when I was clipping these out of my parts chassis, most or all of them are cracked. And I believe that's because, well, the old cap inside is deteriorated and it's swelled, either just from age or because when power is applied and it has leakage, it has internal heating and it physically swelled up. It got me thinking, sorry about the dogs, rather than trying to put this on a lathe and drill out the end or cut the end off or anything, why don't I just try to make use of that crack and split the darn thing open. This one is looks like it's about ready to just let loose. It's cracked almost from end to end on one side, through the end, and most of this side. So it just looks like there's a little bit on this end holding it together. Sure seems like if I apply a little bit of pressure, I could pop this guy open. And if I do, well, and we'll see what's inside. I'm hoping this plastic isn't too big and there's enough room to just plop in a new cap, glue it back together, and we're done. That's all we have to do. If inside it's rather tight, I'll either have to go out and find smaller new caps to put in it, or I got to route out the inside. That I do not look forward to. But if I took a Dremel tool with a carving bit or whatever, I could clean out the inside. My concern with doing that is I'm going to damage the outside while I'm doing it unless I'm really careful. Because the whole point of doing this is to retain this look. So it got me thinking, if I can get modern black plastic caps, or get a plastic tube, 3D print one, to buy some plastic tubing stock and put a cap inside. I can seal the ends with black lock glue. It'll look close, but it's not going to be exactly the same. Then I got to paint the darn stripes on, which I have no interest in doing if I don't have to. So, so what about ones that aren't cracked or are barely cracked? Like this one. If it's cracked, it's so minimal, it's not obvious that it is. Well, I'll pretty much be guaranteed that all these are going to be leaky, right? So what if I put this on, say, a capacitor tester or variable DC power supply? monitor the current and crank it up until this thing does have excessive current running through it, and see if we can pop it. Hopefully not violently so it'd blow apart, but let's take the fact that they've failed and use that to our advantage and see if we can pop them open. Now, yeah, that could build up steam and it could be kind of violent, so if I do try that, I'll wrap this a bunch of layers of towel or something like that. The idea being that if it pops, it'll, be contained and hopefully not damage it so that I can't still use it. I'll definitely practice on these beforehand. Now, unfortunately, that only accounts for, I think, less than half of the caps that need to get replaced. So the others, boy, I wish when I had, when I was working on all these sets last year, I'd been saving all the caps I'd clipped out just to, I thought it was amusing to just see the jar get bigger and bigger full of all the caps. I threw them away. Otherwise, I would have had identical caps to these to play around with. Although I think I do have a spare porthole chassis out in the garage. I can't get to it very well. To put it mildly, I can't get to it easily right now if it's where I think it is. Because these definitely are going to require some experimenting. But I'll tell you what, let's clip one out right now. I got my reference photos. I know how they're oriented, and in particular, there are two identical caps right next to each other connected in parallel. If I take one out, I know where it's supposed to go and where it's supposed to get hooked back up to. So let's get one of these out, because I want to examine how are these sealed on the end. So, one end, and there's the other end. They're held in with a little clip. That's the other reason I kind of want to keep these too, is these are held in by clips. A number of them are. And if we can reuse this tube, then we can reuse the mounting clip. And there she is. Something else about these, I see this asked all the time, is what value is this? You see it's the same code as resistors. The line that's spaced further out than the others, that's going to be your voltage or tolerance. Start reading the value from the end where they're bunched too close together. So here we have yellow, violet, orange. 4, 7, 3. And the 3 means 3 zeros. So it's 47000 picofarads, 47,000 picofarads, also known as 47 nanofarads, which most Americans don't care for, so we call it 0.047 microfarads. Last stripe yellow, 4, it's a 400 volt cap. And in between, sometimes there's another stripe, I believe that is the tolerance. These all appear to be kind of black or gray. I'm not sure exactly what that signifies, but this one, brown, green, yellow, 1540, it's 150,000 picofarads, red, 200 volts, also known as a 0.15 microfarad 200 volt cap. This, same deal. Brown, black, yellow, 1040s, it's 100,000 picofarad, also known as 0.1 microfarad, and we have a blue stripe, 600 volt capacitor. Alright, so how are these sealed? So this end, from here to the other end, it's all one continuous piece. And these don't have a seam like these do, where it's two halves glued together, because this end is open. But it's sealed with something. And whatever it's sealed with, it's really, really hard. It's like the same material as this, it seems, which I do not know what this is. It feels like ceramic, like a very fine cement porcelain material. I doubt that's what it is. Some kind of fiberglass resin, well, not fiberglass, but some type of resin or something, epoxy, but they didn't really have that back then. Remember, this set is from 48 or 1949. I also noticed that it was cracking around with this. Actually, there's a chip missing out here too. If it was plastic, and since the ends are resealed, sure, I would just cut it. You know, cut the like an 1/8 of an inch off. knowing that the end is just, it looks like it's filled with goo anyways. So we can cut that out, pull this out. We already got a hole in this side. It'll just slide right out, put a new cap inside, and we're going to seal up the end with something that's similar color, which would might be a little tricky. But even if I use white hot glue, I don't think it's all that dissimilar from this, especially after I clean this up, because it is rather filthy right now. Or can we chip this away without destroying it? And the other thing too, I don't want to spend forever doing this. I don't want to spend like hours on each cap. So I want to find a way to do this that in a reasonable amount of time. We probably have about a dozen of these and maybe 20 of these to do. So yeah, 30 plus caps. I can't spend a couple hours on each cap. So I want to definitely get a system down. Before I destroy this one, I would also very much like to find some spares of these to tinker with. So let's save that for later, now that I know a better idea what those look like. And let's focus on one of these. So let's take that one that was really badly split already and see if we can pop her open. I think this was the cap we were looking at before, but this one is also really, really bad. I guess if I'm going to put some in there and apply pressure, I want to do it right where the lead's coming in, so if it breaks out, chips out, it'll be right there. Try a jeweler's screwdriver. A little knife, a pocket knife. A little vintagey one. So this is brittle plastic. It might actually be Bakelite type plastic, because of course they went some. Oh yeah, it was very heat resistant in Bakelite. Most certainly is. And yeah, you can see like the granules and stuff. It sure does look Bakelite-y to me, if that's a word. So it sure looks like, it's not like they had blanks in them, they put the cap inside and glued it shut, because this was like molded super tight to the caps. I think they made the caps, they put the caps inside of a mold and they injected liquid resin around it and let it harden. It's very form-fitting, which is not particularly helpful to me. So I pop this out of the other half without destroying anything. What I really want to know is what new cap fit inside. So this is a red orange. It's 0.022 400 volts, which I know the 0.022s I have on hand are kind of big, but also all the caps I have are 630 volt caps or better. Here, I'll get a new cap to show you what I mean. So here's one of the caps like I usually buy. MPT is green sealed ends, 223, just like this, 223, but it's 600 volts, 630, not 400. How's that going to fit? And routing it out, it's still not going to fit. It's too big. No, that's these, which are my test ones. Let's look in the real set. Most of the ones in the real set are this. They're bigger. But certainly with the gray ones, there are smaller. Huh, that's something I hadn't considered. Well, let's see. That'll be kind of a showstopper if they don't fit. One of the things I could think to do is find a parts set, a 0.022 that's rated for 600 volts. It's physically larger, so that the new cap would fit inside, so I wouldn't actually be using the original cap. There's one that looked like it that was bigger and had a different voltage rating. Oh man, I wish these were still made. Grr. The good old M150s that Mallory or later Vichy made. I only have a handful left, but yeah, these would fit. Crap. Well, we'll see. I have a very, very, very few left. Although, at least with the .022s, it looks like I've got about 8 of them. But in other values, I know I don't have any. But okay. We'll still proceed. We'll see what we need. Let me try to get the other half out, because I think this guy will fit. If it doesn't, we can also try these little chiclet guys. And those you can get in like 450 volts, 250 volt. You don't have to get 600. For example, here's a .033 250 volt cap. A little bit bigger than what we need, but for just a little quick test. So it's certainly thickness-wise it would fit in there. The problem is it's radio-leaded, and I would really have to fold those over tight against the body. I don't really think I could get that to fit in there without damaging the epoxy encapsulating material. And here's what a 630 one is. Here's a .022 630, and I'm going to fit. Well, so this could be a one-time only if I have to use the M150s. They stopped making them, I don't know, 10 years ago, something like that. Yeah, they're still floating around. Imagine if you hunt around surplus sites or on eBay, you could still find some. And this is not the only vendor of yellow caps by any means, so there might be some smaller ones out there. And maybe you can get the yellow caps in 200 and 400 volt rated sizes. I've never really looked. I always get 630, 1000, or 1200. Boy, it is not. Yeah, this is stuck in there pretty good. Maybe heat would help. Okay, heat gun time. I'm not trying to get it red hot, just warm. Let's see if that did anything. You can smell it. It smells like hot wax or hot oil. Yeah, it's shifting now. Okay. Alright, now we know. Heat helps. Okay, so back to this. If we were to put this inside, does she fit? No. It's close, but no. No, it does not. No, it does not. Yeah, because that original cap, it's not round. It got mushed flat. And in particular on this side, that cavity is not very deep. But this was the idea about restuffing these. Imagine if that cap was a little smaller or this plastic shell was a little bit bigger, and then just super glue it, clamp it together. That would be a beautiful thing. And the ends wouldn't need any hot glue, wouldn't need to do anything fancy. Just split them open, take out the inside, put a new cap inside, glue it back together, done. Bam, bam, bam. That's what I was hoping to be able to do. Now that was the skinniest one. Let's try a fatter one. Let's try this, guys. .047, the most common value you will encounter in a vintage TV. This one is only split on one side. Now, for the sake of time here, I'm willing to accept if it gets cracked a little bit, because this is a sacrificial test here. Okay, let's pull the leads out and get them out of the way. So, can I pop it open? without cutting a finger off. Let's try maybe a little chisel and a hammer. Couldn't find a chisel. Let's give this a try. Just gonna tap on a straight razor. Right in. Nope, splitting the other side. It's not cracking along the seam, but it's okay, so be it. Let's do the same on this side. There we go. Let's try the heat again to get the insides out. This end will work better. I suspect this is why you don't hear about people restuffing bumblebee caps. Try more heat. Coming. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of doing Philco Bakelite block as they used in their radios. Those are potted with tar. There we go. Probably would have been easier if this split better because it's kind of wrapping around, but yeah, there we go. Alright, so for sure, one of these guys would fit inside this Mallory. So we can see what I'm trying to do, finally. That is what I'm trying to do. And then just glue it and clamp it, and there we go. One restuffed bumblebee cap. So let's get to talking about the other type. Especially because I remember when we were looking at this chassis initially, that one is cracked. So I'm thinking we should be able to open it up pretty readily. Just clip the ends out. And this one's also on one of those special holders. I took some reference photos already, so I'll know where this goes back in. I'm just gonna clip it. And boy, not much lead on the other end. This is cracked all the way through. Oh wow, this thing is just shattered all over the place. Yeah, boy, this ruptured. So that was the the folly of the more you encapsulate these, the more violently they fail because pressure builds up inside and it's got nowhere to go. So this one is just I don't think I've seen one fail that's failed this badly before. There's a lot of crud on it. It's probably stuff that came out from the inside, like vaporized wax or something. So that was a 0.1 microfarad 600 volt cap. No, I guess it could be glued back together, but more importantly, can we get this apart? It looks like it's cracked all the way around, so the end should come off. It's just being held in by wax or something. I'm just going to want to get some sense of what these are made of. It looks like it's not all that thick. So unlike the black ones, this is not made by taking like the capacitor guts and injecting liquid plastic around it under heat and pressure. I think these are pre-formed. They slide the cap in and plug up the end. Which theoretically should make these much, much easier to deal with. Let's try heat again, because I got a feeling there's whatever was inside these, whether it be wax, oil, whatever kind of substance is in there, is like congealed and it's holding it together. Oh, I guess maybe it wasn't cracked through completely. Finally. Huh. Now this is pretty thick and it's not uniform. It's obviously way thicker on, say, the top than here, where it's much thinner. So maybe they do insert this slug into some kind of molding machine. And that is in there really, really tight. So I was having so much trouble. Now on the plus side, assuming I could get the insides out, that is plenty of room to put a new cap in there. But a bunch of the ones in here in the actual set are much smaller. Like these guys. They're about the same size as the smaller type bumblebee. So I see those being really tough to work with. Plus I just realized this is the only one that doesn't have stripes on it. Especially odd because there are a couple other caps that are 0.1s, the one we were looking at earlier. This is also a 0.1 600 volt So these are the same value, same voltage rating, same size. One printed, one stripey. So what I'm kind of thinking about these might be more practical to just paint new caps. Because if I'm struggling this much to get the insides out of a broken one, imagine one that is not, because the rest of them are not cracked. How the heck? I don't see this cutting. I was thinking maybe I could use a hacksaw or something and cut the end off, and then slide the insides out, and then hot glue the new cap inside. But this is really fused in there. This one was already so cracked, I'm just going to try to bust the whole thing open. Hard material. I keep saying that because it almost seems like it has a little bit of give to it, like when you start really putting pressure. Like it's not just shattering, it's actually bending a little bit, and we're starting to get a stress crease there. Okay, well, now it's cracking. Yeah, there's no way that's molded so tightly around it. There's no way that I could see that coming out without having to bust the cap apart like I'm doing. Well, that's a drag, since the bumblebees turned out to be so, well, relatively easy to work with. I should say too, there is a company that makes, at least one company that makes new bumblebees, Jupiter capacitor, because people want it for their Gibson guitars or whatever. But I don't know if they would make every value that I need. But even if they do, they're like 20 to 40 bucks each. So like this is going like into the Smithsonian to be on display underside of the chassis or something like that as a working model. Yeah, in other words, if money was no object, yes. There are modern caps made that look like bumblebees. And if I just needed one or two, maybe I'd do it. But considering if we're going to include these, we have a few dozen, like, nah. Yeah, you can see how tightly that's held in there. A wad of foil on each end. That's why these can fail so violently. I mean, you're kind of looking at explosive here. At least these guys have a seam when they start cracking. These have nothing like that. There's no stress relief. Well, I'm going to leave off here while I ponder my options. I have other more pressing things I got to work on. So this is coming back off the workbench and going back in the cabinet for the time being. Please share your thoughts. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking this is ridiculous and a waste of time. But I want to point out that from all the people that say I'm wasting my time restuffing, there are also people who say it's sacrilege to not restuff. So I get it from both sides for every project. Thanks for watching.